Hello everyone, George DeSantis here with a look at the market for the week ending Friday, May 7th, 2021. It's been a pretty eventful week. Lots of things to take a look at. I usually review the market once a week or so, every other week perhaps. And we look at the general market using the S&P 500, charts on the S&P. Sometimes we look at the Qs, the NASDAQ. And then we look at some individual stocks and a few of the charts. So without much ado, let's bring up a disclaimer that we needed to do so legally at least. I'll let you know that I'm not a professional investment advisor. So this is not any attempt to give any particular person professional investment advice. It is simply something that I do for my own purposes, and it's posted as a YouTube video, and it's mainly for educational purposes. So let's begin as usual with a weekly chart of the S&P 500. And as you can see here, we have moving averages. The 4 exponential moving average is above the 9 exponential moving average, and that's above the 30 weighted moving average. So insofar as the relationship of moving averages to each other is concerned, we can see we have a continuation of an uptrend that began way back when. In addition to that, in support of this notion of still being in an uptrend on the weekly chart of the S&P, we see that the parabolic remains below the most recent bars, and especially below Friday's bar. So there's no indication here to switch from an uptrend to a downtrend. I recently I was interested in seeing if we had stop loss orders on this, what would it look like? Well, the weekly chart wouldn't be one to use the stop loss orders on, but in any case, this is a 3-day moving average of the lows. In this case, it would be 3-week moving average of the lows, and this would be a 1.5 average true range on this dotted white line, okay? So either one of these can be used as stop loss orders. Jake Bernstein likes to use this, and Alex Elder likes to use this one. So we have a choice. We could take a look. In any case, if we go down to the other indicators here, ADX is trending up. So we know that insofar as ADX is concerned, since the histogram is trending up, we have a trend. And since the DI plus is above the DI minus, we know that the trend is up, because ADX only tells us whether we have a trend or not. The relationship of the DI plus to the DI minus tells us what direction the trend is moving, and it's clearly moving up, okay? All right. The next indicator that I have here is the triple momentum indicator. When it's above 4%, as it has been for a while, it has been since way back here in June, we have a confirmation of the uptrend. The momentum is still to the upside. Now, MACD histogram, the one we take buy signals from, gave us a buy signal back here on April 1st, All Fool's Day, and it's continued to trend up. So we still have an uptrend insofar as MACD histogram is concerned on the weekly chart. Let's turn to the daily chart and see what we find. So here's a daily chart of the S&P 500, and lots of things to talk about here. First of all, I want to take this view of it because I did plot the inverse head and shoulder. This is the neckline here, right? This yellow line. This is a neckline of the head and shoulder. Head, shoulder, shoulder. And it doesn't matter that the line is slanted upwards. That's fine. But when we calculated the target from this low to the neckline, added it on to the upside, we got a target of 42.15. Now, we've been looking at this target here for a while. We hit it, we came back down, we went back up, we came pretty close to it, we came back down, and on Friday we broke above it, and importantly, we closed above that target of 42.15. We closed at 42.32 for the first time since we saw this. We established this target. So we have a breakthrough here from what we've been seeing for a while. This neckline, this target from the inverse head and shoulder pattern was serving as resistance, in my opinion, just my opinion, and now we've broken that resistance. Now, what we also notice here is that the 4 EMA, that yellow line, let me expand the chart. The 4 EMA, that yellow line, came down and didn't quite go below the 9. So the uptrend continued in place. Okay, the 4 above the 9, 9 above 30. And interestingly enough, we just basically touched it here and continued to trend up. So on Thursday, we had a nice bullish engulfing bar. And on Friday, we gapped up. We closed higher than we opened, which tells us, according to some analysts, that what we should expect on Monday is an up day, because when Friday closes higher than it opens, we usually get an up day. You can check it out, go back in history and take a look, but that's what I understand from some analysts anyway. And notice what happened to the parabolic. The parabolic just switched all the way down to below Friday's bar on the daily chart. So we do have this situation here where we are looking at the beginning of a new uptrend on the daily chart according to the parabolic. Another thing to be noted here is that you can see that we are in a squeeze of the Bollinger Bands now. You can see that the volatility was much larger here than it is at this time. And out of a squeeze, we tend to go more rapidly either up or down. We don't know what the direction of the market will be, but we do know that we're going to get an expansion of volatility, and of course along with that we will get increasing or decreasing prices. Well, it does look as though we are headed for an up move here, in my little brain's humble opinion. So we'll see how that works out. You can see it here. We have a nice looking squeeze. We have parabolic below the most recent bar on Friday. And it looks to me like we are poised to go higher, folks. All right. If we go to the ADX, ADX is now flat. It's not really trending up yet, but it's not continuing to go down. And DI plus is still above DI minus. So that's positive. That supports at least the status quo, if not an uptrend. Okay. Now, if you go to what Jerry Appel calls his triple momentum indicator, you can see that we never went below the 4% line. Recently, when we were so flat here, we never went below the 4% line. So this confirms that the momentum is still to the upside. You go down to MACD. This is the one we take buy signals from. This is the one we take sell signals from. You can see that MACD had sell signals here, and now it's trending up from below the zero line. And if you're familiar with Alex Elder's work on MACD, he will tell you in his books that one of the best times to be buying a stock or the market or an index or whatever is when the MACD histogram is beginning to trend up from below the zero line, and that's what we have here. So we'll see how it all develops. I'm going to show you Jake's chart in a minute. And here's a weekly chart, Jake Bernstein's MAC, or moving average channel. We have the 10-week moving average of the highs and the 8-week moving average of the lows. And I spoke about this before a couple of times now, so you should be familiar with it. Basically, we can see that we never had a sell signal on the weekly chart because we would need 2 complete bars below the moving average of the lows, and we never got that. we still have the accumulation distribution line above this, above the moving average, the 57-day week moving average. And so you can see that the head and shoulder pattern gave us this 42.15 target, and we just closed above it as we discussed on the other chart. Now, if you go down to the other indicators, you could see that very many of them look the same as we have seen before. In fact, stochastic crossed above here, above the 80% line, and it still is above it. It just basically touched it here, and it's still above it. So we still have a nice uptrend according to all these indicators here. Let's take a look at the daily chart. Let's see, where's the daily? Oh, here's the daily. You could see that head and shoulder, inverse head and shoulder pattern more clearly here. And you can see that we just broke above it. And we have now, let's see, one complete bar. Is it? Not quite complete, no. So we don't have a complete bar yet. We need two of them above to get another buy signal, according to Jake Bernstein. So let's leave this all alone and let's move on. We do have an uptrend on the weekly and the daily chart. Take a quick look at some charts from Barron's this past weekend. You can see that the Dow Jones Industrials, the Dow 30, making new highs. And you can see that the transports are confirming those new highs. And those of you familiar with Dow theory will know that we're getting a confirmation of the uptrend here because transports are confirming the new highs of the Dow. Market sentiment is still somewhat euphoric, but it's lower than it was back here. The insider transaction ratio is somewhat bearish, but not by much. And then we have the put call ratio here versus the 100, S&P 100. And the put call ratio is in buy territory, is in bullish territory. The S&P 100 just spiked all the way up. So this looks pretty bullish to me as well. Now, Barron's just published a list of stocks that they consider their future focus index. So they have a bunch of stocks here, I think 100 and something stocks that they consider their best buys for the year, you know, future focus index. Now, if you want to get a larger chart, just do this and you could and move this along, right? And you could see it, you could move it and see more clearly what those symbols are. So that's that. Let's move on to something else. So we'll turn to Shaken Analytics now, and I'll show you my major watch list and how it's performed in the past week. You could see that these stocks have performed very well in the last week. Of course, there are losers as well, but you can see that Freeport-McMoRan was up 16% for the past week. Alcor, I own these two. I'm not familiar with VNT. And this one, Williams-Sonoma was up. Signet Jewelers was up. FedEx was FedEx, I believe it is, FDX. I'm not sure, but you could check me out, and so on. So all these stocks were up for the past week by this much. These are percentages, right? Let's turn to something else. Now let's look at some individual stocks on Shaken Analytics. What I do usually on the weekend is make up a list of stocks that look very interesting from a number of different perspectives. Either they're oversold, coming out of a squeeze, etc., and make up a new list. So this list is called a bull list, a bull May 10th, oversold, etc. So you can make notes, stop the video, make notes of all of these stocks, but many of them are oversold, etc. I own some of them. I own, for example, Target was my best pick for last week, and it was up nicely this week. And I own a few other ones. So you can take a look at this list and see what you want to make of it, okay? I'll show you a few other ones, like this one here I own. That was one of the best picks for last week too. And you could see that it went up nicely last week. It beat the pants off of earnings. You see, they estimated 58 cents, and the realized earnings was and a penny. So because of that big beat, it's now it's quite overbought now. So you might want to wait for a little pullback, but it could go higher. Um, so you can see some of these here. MKSI almost oversold, coming off the 200 on the 21 day. Dell, my favorite stock, made me a lot of money in the past. Bouncing off of the 21-day average, looks really nice. I'm looking to buy it. It's oversold and ticking up. I might look to buy that one. I own FCX. I've had it for a while. Did very, very well. Home Depot is looking interesting again, although it's not quite oversold. It was, but it's still going up. And look at the money flow and the relative strength. It's really turned bullish. So I like Home Depot again, and that looks very good. LRCX, that is a semiconductor stock. You could see it's bumping off the 200 on the 21-day average, and it's oversold and looks interesting here. This one I still own, PWR, which is Quanta Services, and it's now in the oversold territory. But look at the relative strength; it's remained very strong for a long time. This is one that Mark Shakin himself likes. And of course, I said I own Target. And this is another one that Mark Shakin likes. This says CH Scholastic Corporation. Was oversold and went up a bit. So that's it, folks. I think I'm going to end here and hope that you have a good weekend and make some money. We'll try and do this again next weekend.